Uh, we're going, Lily, we're going. Good evening. Welcome into the Cafe Nightly Show. I'm your host, the Goldsmith. It is the 29th for just a few more minutes, at least here on the East Coast. The 29th of February, Leap Day 2024. And Upland used the Leap Day to their advantage, or at least to some degree, to get something that, I felt like they needed to get done in the middle or before the end of February. And the reason why I thought they had to do it before the end of February was because they had told us it was happening this quarter, but they also told us they were going to stack on that. They were going to iterate that a little bit within the quarter. That means they had to have time for the original announcement to come out. They had to have time for it to go into application and then potentially to stack on that. And that is vehicles as transportation. Back in December, we talked about, or it was talked about by the team, that we were going to be getting vehicles as transportation in the first quarter of 2024. It was also discussed that the next iteration or, layering features might happen in the same quarter, which means they had to plan on that not being at the very end of the quarter. I saw February as the month it was going to happen in. I started to feel, we're getting to the end of the month. How could it be? We're going to get into March before this happens. And Upland, again, use that bonus day. The 29th happens once every 4 years. And again, that's when we got cars as transportation. We'll get into that with the announcement, how the system works. Two things on that. Obviously, A, we had plenty of warning. We had years worth of warning this was coming. B, I think some of the mechanisms were expected. And I'm going to drop a C on there and say, hey, I think some of these things may be worth discussing further if they are the right mechanisms or if mechanisms need to change on these. Because, again, it looks like it is a start with a potential of redefinition or redefining how these work. We've had our transportation travel fees get changed in the past. This might be in the same thing where some of the rules might be potential to be improved along the way. And then we'll obviously get into one other thing, and that is the modification of Spark Week to become this idea of Spark Weekends, the idea that it's going to follow seasonality, it's going to fall inside of a season, and we'll get into some of the specifics of that announcement as well. But the keynote is there. I see the fact that they're distributing it more, again, over a weekend with gaps in between, as a focus on giving different players the opportunity to come into the game and participate. The idea that we are going to have Sparklet at some point, so kind of this incentive and window for people to come in and interact. And ultimately, I think that what we also see here and potentially are going to interact with is going to be this idea that short-term, long-term, midterm, we are going to see Upland, continue to give people the reason to want to buy Spark, and then the opportunity soon thereafter to do so. So all of that said, we'll get into that announcement tonight. I do want to put up front, as always, all views and opinions expressed by myself are mine and mine alone. Should I be taking as game strategy or financial advice? Because we will be talking about some investment or not investment, or some options that people may want to put OpEx into one way or the other. And again, getting ready for a new element of the game that I've kind of suggested we look at weeks ahead, because the market may shift once the actual announcement happened. Go figure. I think that there's been a little bit of activity once the announcement was made. And then, of course, always any views and opinions that I do put out there, they're mine and mine alone. Shouldn't be taken as coming from the game of the team of Upland or as being official positions of the game of Upland, because they really aren't. That said, let's take a look at these announcements. I'm looking at these over in Discord is where they came. Definitely worth seeing the way that those appear over there. And then, of course, getting back around the bend and looking at the actual announcement in the game of Upland, because those are the ones where the most details always lie. Getting on over here into Discord, taking a quick peek. We can always see in announcements are typically the place where we're going to see the best and the earliest information on these, with the details being attached there. And it's coming up a couple different ways here, but car transportation update. Look at this right here. Get ready to hit the roads. The details are ready to drop on transportation. You can start using your cars to transport around right now. For all of the details on how it works, check out the full article on the subject. Let's follow the link and go take a look. Here's the announcement. This is what it looks like. Look at the little car. There's Llama. He's sticking his head out. And oh my God, he's got a monocle. That is Miles. All right. So Miles in a car driving between cities. It's been forecast. It's been discussed. It's coming. The highly anticipated update introduces the freedom of road travel to Upland, giving players the independence to explore and connect like never before. Let's delve into the mechanics of private transportation and what it means for Uplanders everywhere. Car travel works in Upland. Car will be able or will enable travel between cities on the same landmass, aka North America, South America, the UK, Europe, and beyond. Key details: direct travel, select properties in different cities, and watch as your travel path is plotted in a straight line between destinations. Travel time is significantly reduced to approximately 1/5 of the real world equivalent. 1/5 of the real world equivalent. If it's going to take 10 hours in the real world, it's going to take you about 2 hours in Upland. That's still a significant amount of time. It is longer than taking a train. It is longer than flying. Keep that in mind. It is great that we have car travel now, but keep in mind that it is going to be a slower means of transportation than either car or a plane for the most part. Bus, probably about the same. This means that a 5-hour real world drive translates to 1 hour in Upland. Yeah, there we go. Same math that I was using. Speed limit. All cars adhere to the same speed limit. Okay. It means that you can't, regardless of what car you have, they don't travel at a different rate. Having a faster car doesn't mean that you get between two places more quickly. Just like in the real world, you could have, a Maserati. It might go 185. But if you do that, you lose your license. You can't drive. So, more of the story is all cars are going to move at the same rate between cities. It doesn't matter what you have for cars; they're going to get there about the same time. Exploring remote cities and towns, Upland continues to grow. And with the expansion comes new remote cities and towns. Some of these locations will be accessible exclusively by car. Again, I kind of made the point, and I like to always look at when Upland says we're going to do this and we're going to iterate. I look at the reality of when and what do schedules look like, and why would they need to make a buffer one way or the other. I think the reason why we talked about the first quarter of 2023, we talked about the potential of iteration. We got this in before the end of February because we want to have that ability to have that first remote city get dropped in the not so distant future. In December, it was discussed that the first city with transportation or requiring car transportation might happen not so distantly to the start of car transportation. Keep your eyes out. Keep everything peeled. I've watched Stockton and Trenton how these were stealth releases or meant to be stealth releases. I would be surprised, or would not be surprised, I should say, if Upland did sneak in and tell us just not too long ahead that there's an area you can only drive to by car. And then you're going to have to find a way to get there as quick as you can. Keeping in mind, cars do not fly around without you there. We can't hire a service at this point to move our cars when our Block Explorer doesn't get in the same city as those cars. We'll get into that mechanic in a little bit in a little more detail here. Upland continues to grow again. Remote cities are coming. Many of them, or some of them, are going to be exclusively accessible by car. Makes sense to me. We're looking forward to it. To address the challenges reaching these new destinations, Upland introduces Launchpad properties. Owned by Upland. These properties serve as community parking lots where players can travel to and from. This ensures every player has an opportunity to explore every corner of Upland's ever-expanding universe. Again, to get in with this expansion and new cities, what they're going to do so you can drive in is there's got to be a parking lot for you to get to that city. We have already seen parking lots kind of get reserved and get discussed in Tokyo as well. If Upland's going to put a parking lot in every single city, it allows you to travel to a city that you don't own any property to get there for the first time. If you want to go in and mint, if you want to travel to there to go to a meta venture, but you don't yet have a property, you have a way of getting into that city so you can interact with that city or interact with properties and meta ventures in that city. That all makes sense to me. I think it's not too difficult to see, and it's kind of nice. It's kind of nice that it's set up that way. When parking at a launch pad properties, players will only be able to see their car, aka you're not going to see the 15. Here's the basics of traveling going on. If you can hear it, if you're on YouTube, pretty simple, pretty easy. The three steps on the travel, and as we'll let X one explain it, opening the property card, we'll be able to see the travel, be able to upon clicking it, we'll be able to choose the address, place, and then travel, and then set the travel, and then follow the estimated travel time, and then decide whether or not you're going to actually take that travel. When at site, you're going to have to be able to disembark from your vehicle so that you could be in that city. And again, we still have our block explorers. That was something we talked about. Is at what point do we lose block explorers, or will we lose block explorers? Right now, we don't have travel inside of a city with vehicles because that's not the case at this point. You get to a new city, you get out, your block explorer is going to float around willy nilly, old Superman style over top of buildings and structures like it always has. So we're not past that just yet. Car management. The introduction of private transportation brings some new considerations for vehicle management. Car purchases. Cars can be bought and placed on any owned property across cities without the need to travel. However, relocating a car to another city post purchase will require travel. So here's the language that's important to note here. Some people had questions of, is it Meta Ventures? Is it just buying from Meta Motors? Cars that are bought and placed on any owned property when cars are purchased. That tells me Meta Ventures. So if you want to buy a car from me, hey, travel to my Meta Venture, go buy from me, and you can put that property in Manhattan or in Cleveland or whatever city is your home base at the first point of acquiring the car. Once it's acquired, it's up to you to move it around. And again, I do hear this idea that, maybe it'd be nice that if you don't have a property in that city, but you do want to be able to travel from the car MetaVenture, that you could say, hey, I want to leave the car on this MetaVenture and jump into it and drive it out. And that would be nice. Or if there was a designated parking lot where you could travel to in that city, that's, again, it's your car. It's on property you don't own yet because you don't own property in that city, and you get it and you drive out of the city. I would like that. I don't think that exists in every city yet, and it would be nice if that gets established. So that's an easy mechanism, easy workaround of not having a property in the city where you're buying the car. Moving cars can be moved freely from another user's factory lot to your property in any city, but once moved and placed, moving it again will require travel. Easy enough. The next evolution of Upland, in addition to private transportation, marking a significant milestone in Upland's journey. It does offer unparalleled freedom and new ways to engage with the world and the community. Again, there is more to come on this. Keep in mind, this is an iterative step, and there will be more when it comes to using our cars for transportation, and theoretically, at some point, not so distant in the future, using our car for movement of cargo. This is just the first step in car transportation. Like I said, we are, we have more updates to come very soon. Watch out, guys. Keep your eyes open. Prepare to embark on the adventures, explore uncharted territories, and enjoy the thrill of the open road. I want to put a couple things out there. Upland kind of did give us a heads up, more than a kind of. They did say it was a Q1 2024 a roadmap item that was going to happen in Q1 2024. Here we are, Q1 2024, and guess what? We got it. So that's not too surprising. They did give it an iterative step. When I say iterative step, it means that the game of Upland, when they were giving us racing, they kind of gave us this hint, and they said, oh, by the way, when we talk about seasonal racing, you're going to be getting cars as transportation in the not so distant future. They mentioned it when we had the most recent sale. So I kind of took that opportunity to kind of put a flag out there and say, hey, as these cars are being bought by MetaVentures, as these cars are being put up for sale, keep in mind that at some point in the not so distant future, we're going to have transportation. Upland kind of snuck that hint in there as well. It all should have added up to for people that there was likely going to be a period of time in the not so distant future where the market for cars might shift because utility shifts, where potentially where the use case and how we get to and move and get our cars around the map was going to change at some point in the not so distant future. So I think it was a good play. It was a good idea to take that hint and move your cars around and purchase cars if you're going to get them. And I think a lot of people did, or some people did anyways. Some of us moved our cars in such a way that we had some cars in one area and some cars in another. Those of us with showrooms moved our cars specifically to our showroom as opposed to leaving them across the map, and then thinking we could move them to our showroom later. It was one of those precautions, and there's people who've already taken that precaution when it comes to map assets. They feel like it's going to be an overnight snap your fingers. We've got the announcement, and oh, by the way, it's more or less retroactive. The second it happens, everything's locked to where it is at that moment, where you moved it last, and you cannot move it for free any longer. We expect that to happen when we do get cargo to come in the game. So keep that in mind. Upland's hinting that more utility for cars is coming, which would include potentially cargo, which means potentially having your properties aligned with the right assets now. Having your map assets where you want to have your map assets, taking the structure ornaments and storing them on properties you plan to use them in the future. Probably not a bad idea now, just as a hint, just as a iterative step of Upland adding feature after feature. I expect the next step, or when we do get that next step of cargo, it's going to hit hard. The same way as cars, it is where it is. You're going to have to find a way around moving it from one city to the next. Good thought for now, and definitely something that worth keeping in mind moving forward. And the other big announcement today, again, knowing that we are going to be seeing Sparklet come out in the not so distant future, it does make sense that Upland has made a little bit of a shift when it comes to Spark Week. We now have Spark Weekend. And with Spark Weekend, it's Spark Weekends with an S, meaning that they're going to happen more regularly. We're shaking up things up this March, moving from our traditional Spark Weeks to introducing Spark Weekends. This change is all about giving you, our valued players, more frequent opportunities to leverage level up bonuses and Spark rewards that you love. Keep in mind, the language here is this March, aka this is not going to be something that necessarily is going to stick around forever. Don't necessarily assume because we're doing Spark Weekends in March, it's something that's going to happen every month for the end of time. Think of it as we are getting ready for Sparklet. Hint, hint, we're getting ready for Sparklet. So Upland is going to be doing something in this period of time that potentially gives people the opportunity to accumulate, purchase, or prepare what they're going to do with Spark. That includes taking your level up at the right time, so you get that little 20% bonus. That includes purchasing Spark if you choose to purchase Spark, especially if you're at a point, at a threshold where you need just a little more Spark to hit that 5 Spark range to make a factory, or to apply for a factory meta venture. Or if you have a little bit more you need to start a different type of structure. You need 0.5 Spark, potentially you're not there yet. You need 0.5 Spark to start specific structures, and you want to be able to start those specific structures. Now is a good time, or during Spark Weekends anyways, is a good time to buy that little bit more Spark you need to hit those thresholds if you need to hit them. Why Spark Weekends? Spark Weekends are designed with you in mind, offering a more regular cadence every weekend during a season to boost your gameplay experience. By aligning these weekends with the seasonal structure, each weekend within a season will have a chance to shine. Please note, Spark Weekends take a break during the interseason weeks, making each weekend all the more special. I want to put this note out there. They called it March, and we know we're about to take a mid-season break here in 2 weeks. So I guess it's not March. I guess it's the next couple weekends in March, and the last couple weekends in March, they're not going to be Spark Weekends, at least from what it seems at the moment. So here's a couple things that are going to happen. Spark Weekends. Level up Spark rewards. Ooh, I see something interesting. I think I see a little shift here in some of the Spark rewards. Is that intentional? Does it tie into the fact that Sparklet's coming? Maybe, just maybe. Let's take a look. From Visitor to Uplander, you're going to get 0.03 Spark boosted bonus. You regularly get 0. From Uplander to Pro, when you go in for Uplander to Pro, instead of getting 0 bonus, which is what you normally get, you're going to get 0.12 spark. Again, 0.12 spark there. Pro to Director, 0.5. It's going to be 0.6 instead. 0.5 is the regular, 0.6 is the boosted, and 1 is the regular here for going from Director to Executive. 1.2 is the boosted. With Chief Executive level up, again, coming from Executive, Chief Executive, that is normally 2. That's going to be 2.4. Like I said, a 20% bonus. When do Spark Weekends happen? Well, first and foremost, mark your calendars, get ready. Spark Weekends kick off this coming Friday morning, 9 a.m. PT. That's tomorrow, the 1st of March, and wrap up the following Monday, 9 a.m. PT. Friday to Monday. Makes sense to me. This timing ensures that you have the entire weekend to dive into Upland. And when they say entire weekend, there's different time zones. So it's kind of set in a way that if your weekend starts early, your weekend starts late, you kind of get a better idea or a better opportunity to take advantage of, at the very least, the time that would be your weekend. The entire weekend to dive into Upland, level up, and reap those boosted Spark rewards. Spark sale. Each Spark weekend will also feature Spark sales, giving you the fantastic opportunity to stock up on Spark. Again, Spark sales are best and have been best or have seemed best for the community or for people as a whole if there's a reason why they have to get a specific amount of Spark at a specific time to do something specific to their plan in Upland. Again, the right purchase at the right time for the right person. If you want to buy a bunch of Spark, Upland's going to be happy to sell it to you. If you have a real reason why you need it now, you don't want to wait 3 weeks or 4 weeks or 6 weeks for your level up bonuses, or 3 or 4 weeks for your weekly check-in bonuses to push you up. If you don't want to wait another 3 months until you level up to get that little bonus of Spark, if you're not a big treasure hunter, you can still buy your Spark during these Spark weekends to boost yourself up there. Details. Registration is going to be Friday, March 1st at 8 a.m. PT for the next Spark sale. The sale happens on Saturday. Again, this is not the first Saturday sale in the last few weeks. This is something that we've had last couple weeks, so it's not a bad thing. A lot of people like that Saturday at the 9 a.m. PT. Depending on where you are in the world, that may be a good time for you. In multiple parts of the world, it's very early in the morning in some parts of the world. I'm yawning to illustrate that some time zones are harder than others. But we do have this. We do have the opportunity that it being on a Saturday around the world. There are a lot of places, a lot of people who it does work better for than being in the middle of the week. Saturday, March 2nd, 9 a.m. PT. That sale happens again. That is this coming Saturday. The bundles, how many are in each? How much Sparks in each? That's pretty limited here. So of the 0.05 Spark, there's 30 of those at $30. Of the 0.1 Spark, there's 30 of those at $55. For 0.25 Spark, there'll be 10 of those bundles at $130. 0.5 Spark, there'll be 50 of those bundles at $240. 1 Spark, there'll be 50 of those bundles at $460. There's an interesting thing that happened here. We've seen it recently. It's that 0.25 Spark bundle. There's very few of those that are being available. The 0.5 and the 1 Spark, more bundles of those are available than the 0.25. What is going on there? We have seen in previous sales that the top end, the 1 Spark, that sells out well before the stuff in the middle. The low Spark, that sells out well before the stuff in the middle. Overall, these quantities are a lot lower than we've seen in previous sales. Does that mean that Upland is limiting how much Spark they're putting out? Maybe intentionally, yeah. But it also could just mean that they're just trying to put the right amount out for the community. We'll see. If this sells out in 5 minutes, then it's less than the community wanted potentially. Or maybe that people were more interested because of the more limited amount that was put out there. Again, we've had sales in the past where all the Spark that was available wasn't sold. But we have a reason to want to have Spark. That with the Spark, that with the potential of taking Spark out of the game of Upland, there might be reasoning, and some people see it. There might be reasoning to go ahead and try to get Sparklet, or move Sparklet, I should say, out of the game of Upland, to be able to put it in your wallet, to be able to take it out so you can sell it or exchange it. So with all that, people are starting to build up their Spark balances, and maybe Upland's trying to be careful that people don't do too much of that. I don't know. We'll just see how the sale works. We'll see what the market is as of right now. The unique opportunity, we've had a couple of these. We're doing it again. It's not all, that's not all, but wait, there's more. However we want to put it, whatever gimmick we want to look at, we're going to get something during this weekend that's more than spending USD to get Upix. If you're not leveling up, you still have something you can do. This Spark weekend represents an opportunity to commence construction. Again, commence construction is key here. You don't have to finish, you just have to start. One of a kind structure, the London Townhouse. We're going from city to city, and we're going to backfilling them. These are kind of like the Masters Builders, except Uplands designed them. They're kind of like the Masters Builders, except they're only available for a limited time to build them. They're kind of like the Masters Builders, except I wish it was more UGC input in the future of the structures in the game of Upland. But I'm okay. These don't look too bad. These don't look horrible. This unique structure is only available for a limited time. You must start the construction during Spark weekend to secure it. Again, Friday to Monday. That's it. Afterwards, structure, no more starting. If you start it, you can finish it afterwards. Make sure to participate in Spark weekend to secure your London Townhouse, a testament to your dedication in the world of Upland. With this idea, this thumbprint badge, you have to bet 30 different structures. Here's one of them. So here's an opportunity to expand the number of overall structures you have in the game of Upland. It's also not a horrible looking structure. It's not a horrible looking building, these London townhouses. Get ready, prepare to level up, enhance your holdings, and maybe even start a unique structure project. Upland awaits your creativity and ambition. Let's make every Spark weekend count. We're shaking things up in March, moving from our traditional Spark weeks to introducing Spark weekends. This change is all about giving you, our valued players, more frequent opportunities to leverage the level up bonuses and Spark rewards that you love. There's been some complaints in the past, and rightfully so, that it takes a long time. People wait months. When Spark weeks at a certain point weren't happening every month, people were waiting for that Spark level up bonus for months, and it was a little bit annoying for them because they knew they could get that Spark today. They wanted to have that Spark. They wanted to be able to use it, but here they are waiting another month and a half to get that extra 20% bonus. 20% bonus on Spark is not something to sneeze at. It is a decent reward, so it definitely makes sense to wait. But waiting a week instead of waiting a month and a half, much easier for people to do. So I do appreciate that Upland appears to be seeing that. We will see how this works. And I do make the point that there's less quantity available for Spark than there is in other sales, or has been in other sales. Guess what? If we're going to do it every weekend, then I guess it's kind of the similar thing. You do Spark week or Spark sale once every 1 month and a half or two, and you do blank quantity, or instead you do weekends and you do a smaller quantity in each one. Why do smaller quantities make sense? For Upland anyways, sometimes smaller quantities, if you balance your competition with how many people want to buy something with a small number available, sometimes it helps those sell through more quickly. Sometimes if you put too much out at one time, you diminish your demand and you end up sitting on an inventory waiting for that to sell out over time. So again, this is not an unintelligent thing for Upland to do. This is something that potentially, if somebody doesn't have money this week to buy Spark, but they have money next week and they want to get that extra Spark, they can get that extra Spark next week with a sale that's happening then. So for players, it's also not the worst idea in the world, depending on what your play strategy is and depending on how regularly you're going to be in the position to buy Spark or may want to buy Spark. With that in mind, a couple other things here definitely worth considering here on the Spark side of things. When we do have Sparklet, we are going to have this reality that there is a way that Upland's monitoring how much you've actually staked that Spark before it can be converted into Sparklet. That means that you have to be staking your Spark now. if you want to be able to take it out, sparkle it, and do other things with that sparklet. You could do either to sell it or to potentially sit in a wallet for a period of time to see what happens with it, go and swap it later. All of those things that you could do with a cryptocurrency. So now is the time, if you have Spark, to make sure you're using it. Don't leave your Spark inactive. Don't leave your Spark sitting in a pile, gathering sparky little dust. Go and use it. Go into an exchange and rent it out, or go and build structures towards your Thumbprint badge, or go and build structures that you can decorate with ornaments to be competitive in these leaderboard contests during the seasons. These are all things that may not have been as much of an option 3 months ago, 6 months ago, a year ago. And there are expansions of utility with what you can do with your Spark. We also were told that we would get a AMA at a town hall at some point, not so distant, that would deal with and involve the future of Spark utility. We had a Reddit request or a Reddit post that Upland asked Uplanders to get involved with that was about just that, the future utility of Spark, what people wanted to see, the priorities of what could be done with Spark, what they were and what the rankings were and what people were most excited about. And with that in mind, I'd love to see that announcement come before Sparklet. I'd love to hear more about that, but we can already see that Upland's thinking about engaging with Spark and players in the community in a little different way, which is interesting, and definitely looking forward to seeing these more regular introductions of Spark allow people to not have to wait as long to get those Spark bonuses. With the transportation, with the cars that are coming into the game of Upland, cars are not new. Transportation is. If you've had a car that you've been racing, you can use that car to travel between cities. As of right now, where your car is parked does not affect your ability to race, so you can keep moving around. At a certain point, that may change, so keep that in mind as well. In terms of taking your carts and racing or transferring your cars between cities, they are not transferable. They're not a transportation that you can use to move between cities. Therefore, it appears that you can move them with just willy-nilly tapping a place, clicking move and find a new place on the map to move. That is your property now. But it is the cars that you can't do that any longer. The opportunity of taking a little extra time, moving them to the cities you want to have them available in. You could fly in, you could drive out. Some people are already thinking about that. Some people are already thinking about, oh, shoot, I wish I put it where I wanted it already. But you still have the opportunity. You still have the opportunity to fly into an area where your car is, jump in your car, drive it over, put it in, leave it there. The time to do it is before there's a upcoming city release. Having your cars in multiple cities is probably not the worst idea in the world if you're going to hold multiple cars, because if we do have a surprise that says you're going to have to travel to this city, it would be nice to have your car already relatively close to the area where we're going to have the first travel in city. You could fly into the location or near the location where your car is. You take the train potentially into your car, get in your car, and then drive to that special transportation only city that you have to travel into by car. Keep that in mind, that it may be something that is coming up in the not so distant future. With us ending the month of February, there was one big missing or one big omission as far as I'm concerned, which was, we had hoped to maybe we were kind of told that we were going to, by the end of the month of February, know about Genesis Week 2024, know where it's going to be and travel arrangements if you're going to go in person. We don't know that yet. And I think it's definitely worth knowing so that people can start booking. And I'm on that board. I'm on that list. I want to know so I can book. So Upland, do me a favor, make it happen. We'd love to see it. For tonight, otherwise, I'm keeping my eyes out. I'm keeping the idea open that we could get some announcements here in the next couple of days. I think we're probably a little ways out from getting cars as cargo for a ways out. But that next iteration of that car travel city may not be too far down the road, so keep your eyes open. And with that, thank you so much for being here tonight. We do this Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. PT, and sometimes gain start a little bit later than that, in that we have a little conversation on our Discord side before we get started. So if you're in Discord, feel free to be part of that conversation. And as always, as I do end the show, I do like to remind people, if you are in the Upland Discord now, Discord Cafe, feel free to unmute your mics. The floor is yours.